When confronted with the growing threat of German heavy armor during the Second World War, the United States adopted a distinctive approach to anti-tank warfare. Rather than charging into head-on battles, American doctrine favored long-range ambushes and hit-and-run tactics, deliberately avoiding direct engagement with enemy tanks. To execute this strategy, the U.S. established the Tank Destroyer Force, a dedicated branch armed with fast, lightly armored vehicles, each designed to counter the blitzkrieg with varying combinations of speed, firepower, and protection. From the early M3 gun motor carriage, U.S. tank destroyers quickly evolved into the harder-hitting M10s and the fast-paced M18 Hellcats. At the peak of this evolution came the M36, the last and most powerfully armed American tank destroyer of the war. Developed as an upgrade to the M10, the M36 carried the new powerful 90mm gun, finally giving U.S. forces the ability to take on German tanks that had previously shrugged off Allied firepower. This is the story of the M36 tank destroyer, its gun design, its development, and the role it played in challenging the armored spearheads of Germany's most feared Panzer units. By 1942, the U.S. Army had come face-to-face with the devastating power of Germany's 88mm guns and increasingly formidable heavy armor. It became clear that the existing 3-inch M7 gun, mounted on the M10 tank destroyer, was no longer adequate against the latest enemy tanks. Recognizing the urgent need for greater firepower and longer engagement range, American designers set to work on a solution. The result was the development of the 90mm M3 gun, a powerful weapon capable of challenging the best of German armor, and the creation of a new tank destroyer to wield it, the 90mm gun motor carriage M36, also known as the M36 Jackson or Slugger. The American 90mm gun was developed in several variants to meet evolving battlefield needs. The M1 was originally designed as a pure anti-aircraft gun, while the M2 adapted that platform for anti-tank use by enabling greater gun depression for ground targets. For armored vehicles, the U.S. developed the M3 variant, a heavy dual-purpose gun intended for both anti-aircraft and anti-tank roles, comparable in function to Germany's feared 88mm Flak 18. The later M3A1 was essentially an M3 fitted with a muzzle brake to reduce recoil and improve performance. With an urgent need for a vehicle to mount this gun, the U.S. Army prioritized speed in development. To expedite the process, engineers used the existing M10 gun motor carriage chassis as the foundation. While the hull remained largely unchanged, a new turret was designed to house the larger 90mm M3 gun and offer improved armor protection. Unlike the M10's sloped and riveted turret, the M36 featured a cast turret with sloped sides and a thick, rounded gun mantlet at the front. It retained an open-top design to reduce weight and provide better battlefield visibility. A cast bustle was added to the rear of the turret, serving both as a counterweight for the heavy gun and storage for 11 additional rounds of ammunition. The 90mm M3 gun was a formidable weapon. When equipped with advanced APF-SDS armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot rounds, it could penetrate up to 9 inches of armor at a range of 1,000 yards, enough to threaten even Germany's heaviest tanks. Its ballistic performance was equally impressive. It could fire a shell 3,500 yards horizontally at just 1 degree of elevation, and reach targets at over 19,500 yards when elevated to 45 degrees. These figures reflect the raw power and versatility that made the M3 one of the most effective anti-tank guns in the American arsenal. For a gun of its size, the M3 demonstrated impressive accuracy. In controlled testing at ranges between 1,500 and 2,000 yards, the M3 recorded an average dispersion of just 0.115 mm in deflection and 0.142 mm in elevation. By comparison, the British 17-pounder, though a powerful anti-tank weapon, showed greater shot dispersion, 0.189mm in deflection and 0.205mm in elevation, suggesting the M3 offered superior precision. Using M82 APCBC, armor-piercing capped ammunition, the M3's extreme deviation at 2,100 yards was 70 inches vertically and 41 inches horizontally, further underscoring its consistency and effectiveness in long-range engagements. But how did the 90mm M3 compare to Germany's most feared tank gun, the 88mm KWK-43L71, known as the Long 88 and mounted on the Tiger II? Direct comparisons can be challenging, as German testing used different accuracy metrics, typically measuring the percentage of hits on a 2-meter by 2.5-meter target plate. However, dispersion data is available. At 2,000 meters, the KWK-43 showed an average dispersion of 90 centimeters vertically and 70 centimeters horizontally, reflecting excellent precision. The 90mm M3, while slightly less accurate with standard rounds, significantly closed the gap when using HVAP, high-velocity armor-piercing ammunition. With HVAP, its vertical deviation dropped from 70 inches, 177.8 centimeters, to 30 inches, 76.2 centimeters, and horizontal deviation from 41 inches, 104.1 centimeters, to 17 inches, 43.2 centimeters. With these high-performance rounds, the American M3 gun actually surpassed the famed German 88 in accuracy, a remarkable feat considering the KWK-43's reputation. Its improved penetration and superior accuracy with specialized ammunition made it one of the few Allied guns capable of challenging Germany's heaviest armor. Though the M36 retained the M10's hull, it featured a newly designed rounded turret with enhanced armor protection to house the powerful 90mm gun. Importantly, it also included power traverse, a significant improvement over the M10, which relied solely on manual rotation. In November 1943, the U.S. Army awarded a contract to General Motors to begin converting existing M10A1 hulls, variants powered by the Ford GAA gasoline engine, by fitting them with this newly designed turret and the high-velocity 90mm gun. These early test models were designated T-71 during development. Following successful trials, the vehicle was officially standardized in June 1944 as the 90mm gun motor carriage M36. While it is often referred to today as the M36 Jackson, there is little evidence to suggest that this name was used by American forces during the war. Much like the Hellcat nickname for the M18, the Jackson moniker appears to have emerged in the post-war period, likely coined by historians or model kit manufacturers rather than by the troops who operated it. The standard M36 tank destroyer was developed by mounting the newly designed turret, armed with the powerful 90mm M3 gun, onto the chassis of the M10A1, the gasoline-powered variant of the M10 equipped with the Ford GAA V8 engine. These conversions were carried out both on new production vehicles and on M10A1s returned from the field. To accelerate deployment and expand availability, the U.S. Army authorized the mounting of M36 turrets onto other hull types. One such adaptation saw the turret installed on the chassis of the M4A3 Sherman tank, resulting in the variant known as the M36B1. This configuration provided a sturdier hull and improved automotive performance while retaining the firepower of the M36. In addition, the turret was also mounted on the hulls of standard M10s, the diesel-powered versions using the 6046 twin-engine system. This version was designated the M36B2. The later models of the M36 introduced several upgrades, including the addition of a muzzle brake to reduce recoil and muzzle blast, as well as counterweights to help balance the long barrel. A gun travel lock was also added to secure the weapon during movement and reduce wear on the mounting system. Together, the M36, M36B1, and M36B2 represented the culmination of American tank destroyer design, combining mobility with a gun finally capable of defeating the most heavily armored vehicles of the German Wehrmacht. The M36 entered service in France in September 1944 and immediately became the most powerful American armored vehicle in the European theater. The M3 gun mounted on the M36 helped level the playing field for US forces. With standard armor-piercing rounds, it delivered performance comparable to the feared 88mm KWK-36 used by the German Tiger I. But when equipped with HVAP rounds, its power surged, rivaling the long-barreled 88mm KWK-43 found on the Tiger II, German Panther, and Nashorn. At typical combat ranges, the M36 could now take on even Germany's heaviest tanks head-on. The drawback, however, was logistics. HVAP ammunition was expensive to produce and remained in chronically short supply throughout the war. Most M36 crews were issued only a small number of HVAP rounds, often held in reserve for encounters with the most heavily armored German vehicles. In addition to its main gun, the M36 was fitted with a 50 caliber M2 Browning heavy machine gun, mounted at the rear of the turret for anti-aircraft and anti-personnel use. Crews frequently modified this setup in the field, either relocating the M2 to the front of the turret for more practical engagement angles, or supplementing it with an additional 30 caliber M1919 machine gun at the front while keeping the M2 at the rear. Unlike many tanks of the era, the M36 lacked a coaxial machine gun, limiting its close defense capabilities. Only the M36B1 variant, which used the Sherman hull, was equipped with a hull-mounted machine gun, offering slightly improved secondary firepower for infantry defense. Like all American tank destroyers, the M36 featured an open-top turret. While this design offered excellent visibility and helped reduce weight for improved mobility, it also left the crew exposed to harsh weather, sniper fire, grenades, and artillery airbursts. To address these vulnerabilities, crews often used improvised or factory-made turret covers to add a measure of overhead protection. The M36 was operated by a 5-man crew: commander, gunner, loader, driver, and assistant driver. Its hull, shared with the M10, was sloped on all sides, 38 millimeters thick at the front angled at 55 degrees, and 19 millimeters on the sides angled at 38 degrees. Despite weighing 31 tons, its 500 horsepower V8 engine gave it a respectable top speed of 26 miles per hour. The arrival of the M36 in France provided an immediate boost to morale among US forces, finally offering a weapon capable of taking on Germany's heaviest tanks. However, by late 1944, large-scale armored engagements were becoming less frequent, which led to a slow production pace and limited deployment. This changed after the Battle of the Bulge, which exposed the need for better anti-tank capabilities. Even so, by January 1945, only 6 U.S. tank destroyer battalions had been equipped with the M36. The introduction of the M26 Pershing in February 1945, equipped with the same 90mm M3 gun as the M36, meant it now had a rival for the title of the best-armed American AFV. As a result, the urgency to deploy additional M36 was further diminished. Initially, even the powerful 90mm M3 gun struggled to penetrate the frontal armor of Panther and Tiger tanks. However, with the introduction of improved ammunition, its performance significantly increased, with reports of knocking out German big cats from more than 3 kilometers, though such kills were rare. The M36 was well regarded by its crews, as it was one of the few American armored vehicles capable of destroying heavy German tanks at long range. 2 remarkable kills were recorded during its first year of service. Corporal Anthony Pinto destroyed a Panther at 4,200 yards or 3,840 meters, while Lieutenant Alfred Rose of the 814th Tank Destroyer Battalion scored a similar kill at 4,200 meters, the maximum effective range of the M36 telescopic sight. However, the Panther's 82 to 85 mm thick glassy plate could deflect 90 mm rounds at certain angles, even at ranges as close as 150 meters. Testing conducted in December 1944 by the 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion concluded that, with the ammunition available at the time, the M36 90mm gun could not penetrate the frontal armor of a Tiger II at any range. As a result, U.S. forces deemed it tactically sound to engage Panthers and other heavy German tanks from the side, where their armor was more vulnerable. Panthers were often knocked out at 1,500 yards or more. Turrets and side armor were generally preferred targets over the heavily sloped glacis. Engaging Tigers was more difficult and often required closer ranges. Panzer IVs, by comparison, remained vulnerable throughout the war. Even the formidable King Tiger could be taken out under the right conditions. In December 1944, near Freihaldenhoven, an M36 from the 702nd Tank Destroyer Battalion destroyed a King Tiger with a side shot to the turret at 1,000 yards. During the Battle of the Bulge, M36 of the 7th Armored Division were deployed at St. Vith, performing effectively despite harsh winter terrain, artillery fire, and sniper threats. M18 Hellcats of the 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion also saw success. In total, U.S. tank destroyer units destroyed 306 German tanks during the campaign. On the other hand, the towed tank destroyer battalions, still widely used at the time, suffered the heaviest losses. The M36 did not see service in the Pacific Theater, where Japanese armor posed a far lesser threat. By the war's end, the M36 had largely replaced the M10 as the U.S. Army's primary tank destroyer. Unlike other armored fighting vehicles sent abroad through the Lend-Lease program, the U.S. was initially reluctant to supply the M36 to Allied nations due to its own operational needs. However, after the war, as tank destroyers were deemed obsolete, the M36 found a second life through the Military Assistance Program. It was widely distributed to nations including South Korea, France, Belgium, Italy, Turkey, Iran, and Pakistan. Remarkably, some M36 remained in active service as late as the early 1990s, notably during the conflicts surrounding the breakup of Yugoslavia. The M36 combat history tells a tale of a successful blend of firepower and maneuverability, which helped bring the dreadful panzer units of the German Armada to defeat.